Two, 1, 2. Let's see as the people come in. All right, got some viewers. Let's wait till we get a couple more people in here to the crowd. Jen, we are live. I don't understand how you just answered, but I assume just if the, hold on. All right, already have 150 people watching. Holy cow. 200 people watching. Holy cow. Oh, the audio is good. Jen, what I was telling you, if you're listening, if the press conference at 4:45 has anything relevant, call me and we'll have you on the mic, and then definitely give me the results. So what we're doing here, we wanted to go live. I have a television in front of me, but I'm going to keep that television off because if I air a television with CNN on while I'm live, I'm afraid we're going to get a copyright strike from YouTube, which we don't want. So the television is off, and Jen, the co-founder of Status Coup, is going to be sending me in the results. So we should have, I believe in 15 minutes, what they're calling 50% of the results from Iowa. I'm not even going to bother trying not to get demonetized today, so let's just start with a what a clusterfuck. And I think, from what I'm seeing, something smells corrupt here. Something smells corrupt here in Iowa. And I don't want to say, I told you so. I don't want to say I told you so. But I said that this was going to be a disaster. Jen and I had an interview. Before the Iowa caucus where we were talking about this app and how concerning it was. And a lot of viewers were like, oh, stop fear-mongering about the app. It's not going to be a big deal. Well, there we go. So, Jen, definitely try to monitor as best as you can. Before we get into the app, I just want to say, because last night I was live, I don't even know how long, I think like almost 4 hours. We passed 1,000 members we passed. There is the meter blowing up. 1,000 members, holy cow! We grew, I think we added over 100 members while we were live. Amazing. Thank you so much to our original members. Thank you so much to our new members. We'll talk about it more a little bit later, but I just wanted to, off the top, say thank you, thank you, thank you. This is how we fund real independent journalism. We are now at 1,035. So we have a new meter, and that's to get all the way up to 2,000. So we got some work to do. But thank you, thank you, thank you to all our new members. Woohoo! Fantastic. So, as we wait for the results to come in, I want to show you what Bernie Sanders' campaign released yesterday. They are calling it like 40% of precincts. This was their internal results. So I fully disclose, you know, we can't verify this, but this is Bernie Sanders' campaign's results. Jamal, if you could zoom in here. So for 40% of the precincts, before we get the official numbers, this is what Bernie Sanders' campaign had. On round one, Bernie Sanders' campaign had him at almost 29%, Pete at 25%, Warren at 18%, and most electable Joe in fourth place at 15%. Klobuchar in fifth place. But on the final round, Bernie Sanders at nearly 30%, Buttigieg at 25%, Warren at 21%, and Joe Biden at 12%. To be clear, this is Bernie Sanders' internal polling, not for the entire Iowa caucus, but just like 40% of the precincts. So if this expands to the full results, if Bernie Sanders wins by, in this case, a solid 5 points, that is a huge, huge victory. If that proves to be the case, we will see in a couple minutes. Hold on. Okay, Jen tells me the Democratic Party here in Iowa, Troy Price is making his way to the stage. So they're doing a little press conference. Again, I don't want to have the TV on in front of me because YouTube already gave us a copy strike last year, and we don't want to risk it. So Jen will be sending me in the results, but we will talk before then. So before we get the results and what the Iowa State Democratic Party is claiming they're going to do is release about 50% of the caucus results, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why they don't have full results yet. But I do want to start. Thank you, Kip, for the super chat. This is a super chat. We had an amazing amount of super chats last night, so keep it coming. Holy cow, is Mama Chariton watching? Lori Chariton's here. Woohoo! How you doing, Mother? Who, by the way, Mom, before you call me, you got to make sure I'm not live. You called me yesterday while I was live, but I love you anyway. So let's just explore. Because where I come from, if there's so many coincidences that happen all at once, it's probably not a coincidence. There's probably something fishy going on. So, and press the like button. We have almost 800 people watching. 300 of you have pressed that like button. So I need all of you. It's the button, the thumbs up button right under the video. Smash it, smash it, smash it. So here we go. 2 days before the Iowa caucus, the gold standard in polling, the Des Moines Register, considered by most to be the top poll in America, one of the top, for the first time ever, decides not to release its poll before the Iowa caucus, the final poll. They claim they're not releasing it because one person who was called, because, you know, people that are polled are called by pollsters. One person who was called was not given Pete Buttigieg as an option. They canceled the whole poll because of that. That seemed ridiculous. And to most people who have common sense, how could they not release a poll just because one person didn't have Pete Buttigieg as an option? And most of these polls, if you read the fine print, say these polls are subject to technical and human error. So 538, Nate Silver's little nerd blog with data released the numbers yesterday. Somebody leaked it to them. And what do you know? Bernie Sanders was at 22%. Elizabeth Warren was at 18%. Pete Buttigieg was at 16%. And most electable middle-class Joe was below 15%. Why the fact that he was below 15% is so huge? 15% is viability level in Iowa. So caucus to caucus, if you're under 15%, you're not viable. And your voters are then released on in the second round. Your voters are released and able to throw their support elsewhere. We're going to talk about the Iowa caucus a little bit later because honestly, sorry to Iowa, it's time to go. Not just because of the app, but the caucus system is ridiculous. It's undemocratic. It's subject to humongous human error, and we should not have caucus systems in the 21st century in 2020. So, okay, so they're taking the stage now. We're hearing. And we got 1,000 people watching. 540 of you have pressed that like button. Press that thumbs up button right under the video. So, by the way, we are live on Periscope. We are live on Twitch also. So make sure if you're not following us at Status Coup on the Periscope, also follow us at twitch.tv. That's twitch.tv/Status Coup. We're trying to grow on multiple platforms, so we really, really appreciate you guys watching us here on YouTube, but make sure you're also following us. We're also following us on Twitter at Status Coup and at Twitch. So basically, they didn't release the poll 2 days before, claiming Pete Buttigieg wasn't offered as an option to one person. And then we find out, oh, Joe Biden was in an embarrassing fourth place. So that didn't smell right. Then on the day before the caucus, I was reporting, I'm hearing from a lot of volunteers for Bernie Sanders' campaign that they're last minute, like moving caucus sites, not like 3 weeks before. Hold on, Jen, sending me updates. The reporting of the results, circumstances surrounding the Iowa caucuses was unacceptable. The Iowa Democratic Party chairman says he deeply apologizes for the issues. Okay, we'll have more later. So basically, caucus sites were being moved last minute, which was incredible because they're moving caucus sites claiming that, oh, turnout was so much larger than they expected, so the venues that they picked for the caucuses wouldn't hold that many people. But this isn't something that you learn about, that you're going to have larger turnout like 2 days before. The Iowa State Democratic Party has the voter registration rolls. They have how many people are registered. They have how many people are new voters that are new registering. So they should have known weeks before if they needed larger caucus sites to hold a larger voter turnout. So that didn't make sense. Then you have people basically saying, oh, we're getting like last minute the directions to download this app, but we can't download it. It won't download on my phone if you have an Android, if you have different types of phones. And the PIN number that the county parties gave us doesn't work. So there's multiple problems. Either the app would not download on people's phones, or the PIN number they were provided didn't work. So you have all of these chaotic things going on. Then you have he said, the Iowa State Democratic Party chairman, this is personal to him. He caucused for 20 years, blah, 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 blah. All right, he's now taking questions. So, Jen, just let me know when they release some of the results. I don't really care about him and his apologies. So we find out, and Jen and I talked about this before the caucus, that they were using an app not to actually have people vote. It's not like you vote on the app, but they were using an app to send the results, upload the results to the state party with the goal, according to them, for it to be faster than having to do it the old way, which was just calling in the results precinct to precinct to the state party. And by the way, everybody's focused on the Iowa State Democratic Party, but every state party is under the Democratic National Committee. The Democratic National Committee was heavily involved with Iowa and, if they keep it, Nevada, using an app to record the results. But the Democratic National Committee and the Iowa State Democratic Party refused to tell anyone, well, who developed the app? What company developed the app? Who works for the company? Do they have any political affiliations? Like, shouldn't we know the first election of the 2020 primary? How, like, what are the connections here? Who's doing this app? And they said, no, don't worry about it. Even if the app doesn't work, we have paper ballots as a backup. So we're set. There's going to be no issue. Well, thanks to, and we've been on the ground here for days. We are the only, as far as I know, we are the only in the field unit that has been out here for almost 4 or 5 days with the people reporting on this. We followed canvassers door to door. We were interviewing volunteers. We were looking into and investigating what the heck is going on with this app. So then, as I'm live last night, shocker, what Jen and I had predicted, the app doesn't work. So let's take a look. Bernie Sanders, the week before the Iowa caucus, is leading in, I think, every poll but one. He's leading in every poll but one, including the last Iowa Des Moines Register poll. All of a sudden, with Bernie Sanders leading, polling stations are getting changed. The Des Moines Register won't release its final poll. On the day of, they're doing multiple coin tosses around Iowa to choose delegates. I was getting emails from Bernie Sanders volunteers and precinct captains saying Bernie won by like 75 to 100 people at this location, but the delegate split, it was basically even. So something didn't smell right. And then Li Fang from The Intercept, amazing reporter, tweets out last night, well, what do you know? The developer of this group, the developer of this app, the developer of this app, you can't make this stuff up, is a group by the name of Shadow, and Pete Buttigieg's campaign gave over $42,000 to Shadow. Joe Biden's campaign also gave a little bit, much less, but Joe Biden's also gave a little bit to Shadow. Now, Pete Buttigieg's campaign claims we didn't give them any money towards the app. We used them for other services. Other services. Okay. Then we find out that the CEO of the app, Gerard Naimira, in 2016, the CEO of this app that nobody, the DNC, the Iowa State Democratic Party, wouldn't tell anyone what it is. He served as the senior product manager and the director of product for Hillary Clinton's campaign. Hold on. I'm getting a breaking news phone call from Jen. What do we got, Jen? Hello?
Hey, I sent you a bunch of texts with the press conference. Key race alert is coming right now.
So the results are coming right now?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm gonna keep you on the phone then. Or you
62% of the precincts reporting. Buttigieg at 26.9%, Sanders at 25.1%, Warren at 18.3%, Biden at 15.6%, Klobuchar 12.6%, Yang 1.1%, Steyer 0.3%, Bloomberg and Gabbard 0%.
So they're reporting Pete Buttigieg at what?
They moved it away from the screen, but they have him in first. 62% reporting. So Pete is at 26.9%. Sanders at 25.1%.
And Warren at what?
Warren at 18.3%. Biden at 15.6%. Again, 62% of precincts reporting. So it appears that they have a green background on Pete.
So when did they say the rest of the precincts will be in?
He refused to, Troy Price refused to answer that question. He was asked it multiple times in a row. He clearly heard it and would not answer when 100% of the results should be in. So
this is how they rig it. All right.
Okay. Well, now we have popular vote results in. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders is at 1,190 votes ahead of Pete. So Bernie, popular vote, has 28,220 votes. Pete has 27,030 votes. Elizabeth Warren, 22,254 votes. Joe Biden at 14,176 votes. Of course, goes down from there. So Bernie is winner of the popular vote so far. Pete is ahead with percentage-wise of delegates.
Can you text me all this?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
So, as I was saying, they're trying to rig this thing, and this is how they're doing it. So, as Jen just told you, they are reporting it with 60% of the poll, 60% of the precincts in, which I don't even understand. Why are they reporting it with 60% in? Why don't you have the other 40%? You've had till last night to do this. So they're choosing to report with 60% in that Pete Buttigieg is leading Bernie Sanders by, I think, according to what Jen told me, a full point. Even though by the popular vote, which it's good that we have that, Bernie Sanders is leading in the sheer popular vote. So here we go. Political polls I'm looking at. They have it as 62% in, Pete Buttigieg at 27%, Sanders at 25%, Warren a distant third, 18%, Biden at 16%, and Klobuchar at 13%, with 62% in. So this is basically, to me, a very clear intent for the Democratic National Committee to steal this thing from Bernie Sanders, and I'll tell you why. And again, that's only 62% in. So that could very well change. But when Democratic Party chairman of Iowa, Tom Price, was asked, when will the rest of the numbers come in? He refused to answer it. Then why are you releasing the numbers in the first place? Are the candidates just supposed to go to Nevada, New Hampshire, where nobody knows who really won the Iowa caucus? Because Pete Buttigieg, literally yesterday, was declaring victory with no results. And now the narrative is going to be put forward, because the media pushes narratives, that Pete Buttigieg is the winner in Iowa when it's 62%. That remaining 38% could be a lot of progressive areas, more left-leaning areas, but we don't know because this is how they're framing the result. Pete Buttigieg up by 2 percentage points. But according to the popular vote, let me see if they have this in yet so I could show you. All right, they haven't listed the popular vote yet. Hold on. All right, so Bernie Sanders currently winning the popular vote, 28,200, 27,030 for Pete Buttigieg. So over 1,000, 1,190 votes ahead. So here's what I would do if I was Bernie Sanders' campaign. Here's what I would do. I would immediately sue the Iowa State Democratic Party for essentially releasing partial results and then refusing to release the rest. Even though Bernie Sanders, according to the 62% of precincts that are in, is winning the popular vote, that doesn't matter because the media is going to be pushing this other narrative that Pete Buttigieg is the winner because he's winning percentage-wise with 62% of the vote. I've never seen anything like this before. I've never seen anything like this before. I am not a lawyer, but I do know that if a corporation, an individual, do things and put out information that hurts your ability to earn a living, succeed in your business based on false information, then you have a right to sue. I would sue them because they are interfering with the democratic process by putting out wildly, and by the way, if the percentage was showing Bernie Sanders ahead by 27 to 25%, but showed Pete Buttigieg with the popular vote, I'd say the same thing. I don't know why the Iowa State Democratic Party is releasing results at 62% of precincts showing Pete Buttigieg in the lead, because now you're allowing him and the entire corporate apparatus, the think tanks, the corporate media, the Democratic politicians, the near attendants, to say, Pete Buttigieg won, and now we could all rally around Pete Buttigieg because Uncle Joe Biden, came in a distant fourth. And the thing that's most outrageous about this, how is it when he's asked multiple times, well, when are the rest of the results going to be released? No answer. No answer. So let me get this straight. And you tell me if this isn't rigged. Okay? Because several things have happened over the last few days that are all favorable to Pete Buttigieg. Jamal, am I a conspiracy theorist? A couple days ago, the Des Moines Register does not release its final poll because Pete Buttigieg's campaign complained. Pete Buttigieg's campaign complained that, oh, well, we don't, somebody got a call from the pollster and the pollster didn't give that person Pete as an option. So let's cancel the whole poll. Des Moines Register cancels the whole poll. Okay? Then it gets leaked the day of the Iowa caucus that the final poll showed Bernie at 22%, Warren at 18%, Pete at 16%. So Pete, distant third in the final Des Moines Register poll. That's considered the gold standard of all polls, right? Then on caucus day, literally nobody knows how to use the app. Nobody could download the app. The Iowa State Democratic Party, instead of just scrapping the app entirely and doing it the old way, tries to make the app work. They don't release results. They say we're going to release half the results, which was ridiculous in the first place. Then they release 62% of the votes, showing Pete Buttigieg up 2 percentage points, but Bernie Sanders ahead in the popular vote. Well, gee, which narrative do you think the United Corporations of America is going to go with? You already have Mayor Pete, who, by the way, Status Coup was the only independent media outlet out there that actually exposed what this man has done, really done, to South Bend, Indiana. Maybe we'll play that to the 2,300 people we have watching. By the way, we got 2,300 people watching. Only 1,000 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 1,300. Smash that like button. It's a thumbs up button right under the video. More people that press like, more people that will see the live stream. It's unbelievable. And by the way, I'm a journalist, so I definitely believe in backing things up with facts. But I'm also somebody that has a brain and operates on the basis of common sense. Can you imagine if Bernie Sanders' campaign called the called the Des Moines Register and said, you can't release the poll because we got a call that somebody was called by the pollster and the pollster didn't offer Bernie as an option. Not only would they release the fucking poll, but they would twist the knife into Bernie and claim Bernie's trying to hack the results. But they don't release it because Mayor Pete complains. And then we find out, if you came to this late, then we find out that this app that they refused to release who was the developer for the app. You can't make this stuff up. They would not tell you who created this app. This app has got over $42,000 from Pete Buttigieg's campaign. Buttigieg's campaign says, well, we didn't give the company money towards the app. We were paying the company for other technological services. Yeah, that flies. Oh, it just so happens, by the way, the CEO of the company, Shadowproof, worked on Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. He was the senior product manager and director of product for Hillary Clinton's campaign. Oh, it just so happens, where are you? That the product manager at Shadow also worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign. I don't know if you could zoom in on this. It just so happens that the chief operating officer at Shadowproof also was an engineering manager for Hillary Clinton's campaign. The chief technology officer at Shadow, Hillary Clinton's campaign. This 4 of Shadowproof's top officials, its CEO, its chief operating officer, its chief technology officer, and its product manager all worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign. Oh, by the way, nothing to see here. The product manager at Shadow, Anya Rao, literally scrubbed her LinkedIn of her experience. She scrubbed her LinkedIn. Nobody knows where she's worked because she took it off. No, nothing to see at all. Nothing to see at all. And if that's not enough, wonderful reporting. God, if Status Coup could ever afford somebody like Lee Fang to report for us, holy cow. What a great journalistic duty Lee Fang of The Intercept has done here. Let me drop that in the super chat. Read this report from Lee Fang. I'm going to read it to you right now. Jamal, sorry to make you do all this here. Democratic operative Tara McGowan is denying that her high-profile liberal firm, Acronym, played a role in the Monday evening Caucus debacle, claiming that her firm was merely an investor in the company Shadow Inc., which developed the app at the center of the controversy. But internal company documents, a source close to the firms, and public records show a close and intertwined relationship between Acronym and Shadow. In addition, ahead of the caucuses, questions swirled inside Shadow over the company's ability to deliver a quality product, and there was concern from at least one staff member that senior leaders of Shadow and Acronym, both of which were launched as a new Democratic bulwark against President Trump, have been far from neutral in the Democratic primary. By the way, folks, if you have any brain issues, if you've had a seizure before, if you've had epilepsy, if you've had any type of brain issues, I would stop watching right now because your head's about to explode. Your head is about to explode when I read the rest. Throughout the caucus yesterday, Democratic officials reported widespread problems downloading the app and inconsistencies uploading caucus results. I already went into that. So the spokesperson for Acronym, which is the main investor in Shadow, played dumb. Quote, Acronym is an investor in several for-profit companies across the progressive media and technology sectors. One of those independent for-profit companies is Shadow Inc., which also has other private investors. David Plouffe, a former campaign manager to Barack Obama's 2008 presidential bid, who joined Acronym's board, also distanced himself from the company during an MSNBC panel last night. I have no knowledge of Shadow. Well, let's take a look. You want to see David Plouffe distancing himself? Let's take a look.
Firm called Acronym, David Plouffe. I know you've worked with Acronym. There's been some reporting about the app at the center of this, which appears to have been developed by a company called Shadow that is associated with another firm called Acronym, David Plouffe. I know you've worked with Acronym. I've seen some reporting in Huffington Post and Lee Fong and others have sort of walked through the connections. I just want to ask you if you've had anything to do with this app, if you know about it, if you have any insight into this.
I didn't know about it, so I'm helping Acronym. I'm a volunteer on their board.
And what is Acronym?
So Acronym is a digital firm that works on digital advertising, puts out a newsletter every week about what's happening in the presidential race. My understanding is, I just texted the CEO, is Acronym's an investor in Shadow. I guess Shadow's got its own board of directors. So in my relationship with Acronym, which has been going on for a few months, I have no knowledge of Shadow.
So you weren't sitting up there the whole time being like, I actually developed this
No.
app. Okay.
I didn't know if it was Microsoft or who it was. Not to throw them under the bus, but no, it's news to me. But anyway, glad you asked me.
We're gonna find out more.
News to him. News to David Plouffe, the campaign manager for Barack Obama, who is single-handedly, I mean, Obama, was a good candidate too. Total fraud, but he deserved to win. But David Plouffe, a brilliant man, basically knows nothing about Shadowproof. Shadow, even though he's on the board of its parent company. But it gets better. Let's keep reading along. I know you're going to hate me, bro, but you got to open that window. I'm schwitzing. My cameraman, Jamal, and I have a little hot and cold relationship here because I get very, very hot and he gets very, very cold. All right, so let's read more into Shadowproof. Shadow. But previous statements and internal Acronym documents suggest that the two companies, which share office space in Denver, Colorado, are deeply intertwined. Last year, McGowan, a co-founder of Acronym, wrote on Twitter that she was so excited to announce another Acronym has acquired Groundbase, a firm that included, quote, their incredible team led by Gerard Namira, who, again, was Hillary Clinton's chief product developer. But in an interview on a related podcast last month, McGowan described Namira as the CEO of Shadow, which is the technology company that Acronym is the sole investor in. So Acronym tried to make it seem like, oh, we invest in a whole lot of companies, and we invest, we're one of several investors in Shadow. Well, right here, Acronym is the sole investor in Shadow. Acronym. By the way, the CEO of Acronym? Guess who she's married to? Acronym owns Shadow. Acronym is the sole investor in Shadow. Guess who the CEO of Acronym is married to? A senior staffer for Pete Buttigieg. What's more, internal documents from Acronym show a close relationship with Shadow. An internal organizational chart shows digital strategy firm Lockwood Strategy, FWIW Media, and Shadow as part of an unified structure with Acronym staff involved in the trio's operations. In an all-staff email sent last Friday, an official with Lockwood Strategy reminded team members about, quote, cool things happening around acronym. The list included bullet points such as the Iowa caucus is on Monday and the shadow team is hard at work. A person with knowledge of the company's culture who asked to remain anonymous for fear of reprisal shared communication showing that top officials at the company regularly expressed hostility to Bernie Sanders supporters. McGowan, the CEO of Acronym, is married to Michael Hall, a senior strategist with the Pete Buttigieg campaign. Li Fang reports there is no evidence any preference of candidates had any effect on the coding issue that is stalling the Iowa results. Well, there might not be evidence, and that's great for Lee, a journalist like I am, to obviously, if there's no firm evidence, you can't report it. But there is a lot of evidence of a lot of coincidental things happening before the Iowa caucus that favored Pete Buttigieg and hurt Bernie Sanders. And now the Iowa State Democratic Party, and by the way, I just want you to understand something, because this is how it works, and TV isn't reporting it correctly. Everybody's looking at the Iowa State Democratic Party as the bad guy here. But the Democratic National Committee is pulling the strings behind the scenes. The Democratic National Committee oversees all the state parties. The Democratic National Committee helps the state parties raise money to fund their congressional races, Senate races, all local races. So the DNC was involved from the beginning in Iowa using this app for its caucus. The DNC has been involved from the beginning in Nevada, which is also supposed to be using this app. So the Iowa State Democratic Party's decision to release 62% of the precincts all at once, showing Pete Buttigieg up by 2, you don't think the Democratic National Committee has anything to do with that? If you don't think so, I got a bridge to sell you, and it's really, really nice. 3,139 people watching. 1,800 of you have pressed like. So to repeat, I know some of you say, Jordan, you repeat a lot, but we might have some new viewers. And this is a super chat. Keep it coming in the super chat. By the way, last night, hashtag Mayor Cheat was trending, so I wonder if they'll get that trending again. Des Moines Register won't release its poll, claiming Pete Buttigieg was not offered as a choice to one voter. That poll is leaked the day of the Iowa caucus, showing Pete Buttigieg in a distant third place, showing Joe Biden under 15%. Right before the Iowa caucus, the Iowa State Democratic Party starts moving caucus locations, not 2 weeks before, not 3 weeks before, not a month before, 2 or 3 days before. And they're sending out alerts where to go on Twitter. Do you know that most people over the age of 50 are not on Twitter? No offense to my viewers who are over 50 that might happen to be on Twitter, but the overall populace over 50 is not on Twitter. So, chaos. Changing caucus locations last minute. They didn't even test the app. This is, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say this is just gross incompetence, okay. But you're using a brand new app for the first time in the first state that votes, and you don't even test it precinct to precinct? And then they delay the results. Oh, did I mention they wouldn't release who developed the app? Maybe they wouldn't release who developed the app because if progressives found out that the app they're using is run by 4 former staffers to Hillary Clinton's campaign, if progressives and Bernie Sanders' campaign found out that the app or the company that develops the app got over $42,000 from Pete Buttigieg's campaign, as well as a little money from Joe Biden's campaign, maybe people would start having questions. Maybe some eyebrows would be raised there. Oh, did I mention that the DNC a couple days ago decided to just Just kidding. We'll just change our rules for the billionaire who gave us $325,000, Michael Bloomberg. So when they call you conspiracy theorists for calling it rigged, that is the ultimate form of gaslighting. Because I got news for you folks. This is rigging. This is what rigging is. And I know the devil's advocate, you could say, well, Jordan, I mean, Bernie's ahead in the popular vote. Yes, but the corporate media is the ultimate form of brainwashing. If you watch our videos, you know that the corporate media is the ultimate form of brainwashing. Because I interview people all over the country, and the things that come out of their mouth are what Wolf Blitzer and Chris Matthews feed to them. I interviewed a wonderful lady the other day at a Joe Biden rally. The rest of the voters there were very, very much eating their Brussels sprouts and broccoli. They are eating a steady diet of slow gradualism and incrementalism. But this one woman started reciting the talking points that she was fed from MSNBC. Well, I think we need a moderate to beat Donald Trump. So I very kindly said, well, how's moderate President John Kerry working out for you? How's moderate President Al Gore working out for you? Even though he won technically, but shouldn't have even been that close. How's moderate President Hillary Clinton working out for you? And like a light bulb went off. Light switch. You know, I think you're right. I never thought about it that way. But releasing the numbers this way is totally irresponsible because it allows Pete Buttigieg to basically declare victory. It casts, you know, they say Russia wants to sow discord and sow chaos into the electoral system and sow confusion and doubt. This actually sows confusion and doubt. And, you know, Jen is telling me, in fairness, hold on. A CNN reporter, David Chalian, said, quote, it's not that Bernie Sanders can't still win the delegate count, too. We're only at 62%. So at least that one reporter is being responsible, but I don't think the rest of the corporate media will be responsible. And apparently Bernie went up in the second round, contrary to early internal results. They released this partial results at this time in this way with Pete ahead for a reason. Yes, I agree with you, Jen. By the way, I just want to say thank you. I don't know who gave it. Sean O'Brien, $200 in the super chat. Sean O'Brien, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This makes no sense. The Iowa caucus is an open, transparent process. People who were in those gyms and schoolroom know who won. It's all a matter of asking around and adding things up. I don't know if yes and no. And thank you so much for the $200. It is certainly an open process, and there hasn't been these problems before. So I'm not blaming the people of Iowa. It's not the voters' fault. I'm not blaming the precinct chairs. I'm not blaming the actual people involved on the ground with the caucus. I'm blaming the DNC. I'm blaming the Iowa State Democratic Party because, yes, it's 2020, and it would be wonderful if we could use an app for results. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You didn't have these problems last time. The only problem you had was CNN and MSNBC reporting Hillary Clinton the winner when Bernie was down at 1/10 of a point, and they declared Hillary the winner. That was the way they rigged it then. But you didn't have all these problems because they did it the old-fashioned way. They just called in the results precinct by precinct, which, by the way, they do all over the country. Primaries and caucuses. But you have to look at intent. Does it make any sense to you that the Iowa State Democratic Party and the DNC, which, again, I keep mentioning the DNC because they are involved with this, that they don't test the app? Does it make sense to you that precinct chairs were just getting the link to download the app a day before the caucus rather than a week to 2 weeks before to troubleshoot? Does it make sense to you? By the way, in that same Intercept story, I didn't read this part. In Li Fang's great story, people within Shadow, the company, didn't understand what's the big deal? Why? Let me actually get this part because I think it's important. The New York Times reported that the creators of the app had repeatedly questioned the need to keep it secret. So the Iowa State Democratic Party, let me highlight that so you could zoom in on it, Jamal. So the Iowa State Democratic Party was saying all along, well, we don't want to release the developer of the app for security concerns. We don't want to give potential hackers a leg up. Well, right here you have the developers of the app, which, by the way, were 4 former staffers for Hillary Clinton. Nothing to see here. They didn't understand. Why are we hiding it? Well, again, why were they hiding it? Because Tom Perez, Lead With Your Values Tom, knew that if it got out that this technology company that got money from Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, if this technology company that got this money, be bad news, optics-wise, trust in the process-wise. So what now? What now? I'll tell you what now. New Hampshire, there is a debate on Friday. By the way, we were denied credentials. Thank you, ABC News. We're going to New Hampshire anyway. And thank you guys, by the way, for the 3,273 people watching. Jack, Gene, $99.99. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Thank you, Jack, for that wonderful contribution. For the 3,200 people watching right now, thanks to you guys, we are able to go to New Hampshire, and I hope South Carolina after it. Last night, we added over 100 new Status Coup members while we were live. As far as I know, we were the only independent outlet live from Bernie Sanders' campaign headquarters interviewing Bernie Sanders supporters. We were giving the microphone to Bernie Sanders supporters because, as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be more independent, progressive reporting out there that gives a microphone to Bernie supporters. We've given a microphone, by the way, to Tulsi supporters. We've covered her, part of her campaign. We feel you don't hear or see these voices in the corporate media, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. But we can't do it alone. We have no money from bankers, fossil fuckers, big real estate, big pharma, Silicon Valley, top Democratic Party donors, top Republican Party donors, shadow companies named Shadow. We don't have it. So if you're not a member, sign up today, statuscoup.com/join. We want to get to 1,200 members by the time we get to New Hampshire. We're getting to New Hampshire on Friday. We want 1,200 members before we hit the ground in New Hampshire. Statuscoup.com/join. And by the way, for our old members and our new members, we've been cranking out behind-the-scenes videos from Iowa. So members also get bonus behind-the-scenes content. So check it out. Go to statuscoup.com. If you're a member, click on member content. You got a whole lot of things to choose from. Photos, videos, the whole nine. Keep signing up, statuscoup.com/join. So what now? What now? And thank you so much for the super chats. Keep it coming. Well, according to the results, and let me make sure I didn't miss anything from Jen. Maybe read the comments. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, my Lord. Maybe read the comments Troy Price made that I wrote earlier via text. There are some interesting answers, non-answers if you need to fill any time. And the questions were actually pretty good by reporters. Okay. We're getting so many super chats and I don't want to miss my peeps. Thank you, Reginald Morton, $20. Down with the DNC. Go Bernie. Adios. Jack Jean, $99.99. Thank you so much, Jack. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Taria0110, $50. Thank you for being there live last night. We saw how much support Bernie had and how messed up the app was for voting. They are trying to rob Bernie. That's all. $10. Thank you, Tara West. Americans are really apathetic. Why isn't anything happening? I think things are about to happening. Dylan Thomas, 100 pounds. Thank you from the UK for the truth. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to try to read as many as I can. Amber King, $10. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So here's what I think. If these results, we don't know what the full results are going to be. Right now, according to, let's see, where did that go? Okay. Right now, according to the 62% in, let's say this stays somewhat what it is now. I actually think it's going to tighten. I think it's possible that Bernie Sanders actually wins on both. If it stays like that, let's say Bernie and Buttigieg close together, Warren in a distant third, Biden in a distant fourth, Klobuchar in fifth. To me, Elizabeth Warren is the biggest loser here if these numbers stay what they are. Even if Bernie Sanders were to come in a close second percentage-wise, but he wins the popular vote, I think it's a net positive for Bernie Sanders because he won the popular vote, which, if we live in a democracy, the popular vote should mean something. The delegate split, if it's this close between Buttigieg and Sanders, won't mean much. And frankly, Bernie Sanders is crushing right now in New Hampshire. If you look at the Real Clear Politics average, let me get that for you. Bernie Sanders right now in the average of polls is up 26 to 17, almost 18 for Biden. So Bernie Sanders is up 9 points over Biden. Warren in third, Pete in a distant fourth. And a poll that came out today, let's see, from Emerson, Bernie Sanders 32%. Biden and Warren tied at 13%. Buttigieg at 12%. So Bernie Sanders, if he wins the popular vote in Iowa, and let's say he comes in a close second percentage-wise, hey, to me, call it a victory and move on. You won the popular vote. Pete Buttigieg will also, let's be fair, Pete Buttigieg will also be able to have some momentum and brag if that's the case. But Warren's campaign pretty much put everything, and I'm going to keep that number up there. And again, to be fair to Elizabeth Warren, too. She's not my favorite person, but let's be fair to everybody. I'm a journalist. Elizabeth Warren, with 38% of precincts still left to go, Elizabeth Warren might go up. Elizabeth Warren might go up. Jen just told me, Pete is speaking in New Hampshire right now and saying that the results show his campaign is in first place. He said the majority of results are in. CNN is airing it in full, of course. He again says this is a victory for his campaign. You have got to be fucking kidding me right now. This, CNN, the Des Moines Register, all of these outlets are working as a super PAC for Pete Buttigieg. That is what is happening. The Des Moines Register doesn't release the poll that did not look so good for Pete Buttigieg or Biden. The app is developed by a company who got $42,000 from Pete Buttigieg's campaign. It's not disclosed. The parent company for the app, Acronym, the parent company for the app, the CEO of Acronym is married to Pete Buttigieg's senior campaign strategist. Are we just supposed to call all of these coincidences? I mean, you can't make this up. And Pete is painting this as a win for the outsider. So, listen, there's a lot of things we could speculate about. But to me, if those numbers stay what they are right now, and we got 3,500 people watching, 2,600 of you have pressed the like button. So can I get another 1,000 people? Press that like button. It's right under the live stream. And also, make sure you become a Status Coup member for as low as $5 a month. Statuscoup.com/join. We're headed to New Hampshire next. If we keep growing our membership, we're going to South Carolina, and I hope we could then cover the rest of the campaign, Super Tuesday and beyond. But this is not cheap. This trip alone is costing us $4,000. So we really, really need to grow our funding. Statuscoup.com/join. But to me, I think it's bad news bears. If Elizabeth Warren is in distant third place, I'm not saying she's going to drop out, but she has to come in first or a very, very close second in New Hampshire to stay in this race. And I'll tell you why. Remember, folks, although she says that she doesn't do big dollar fundraisers, you know, she's not down with the bourgeoisie, she doesn't take money from special interests, Elizabeth Warren was down with doing big dollar fundraisers in her 2018 Senate reelection campaign. She transferred $10 million of money she raised in Martha's Vineyard, Silicon Valley, New York City lavish apartments. She raised money from private fundraisers with wealthy donors, and then she transferred $10 million over to her presidential campaign. So she had a head start over most other candidates. And with that $10 million, she staffed up in Iowa. So that's why the media kept saying Elizabeth Warren has the strongest ground game in Iowa, even though, like, from what I was hearing, Bernie's campaign had a ridiculously strong ground game here. So if Elizabeth Warren, who has, by the way, other than Bloomberg, we're going to get to him in a minute, he's trying to buy the election. Other than Bloomberg, Elizabeth Warren has the most paid staff. Well, if the state that you put your most resources in, the state that you had the most staff in, if you come in a distant third place, and again, to be fair, she might end up doing better. We don't know. She might end up going up a little bit because we have 38% of the precincts left to go. But if you come in a distant third place, there's a lot of things that result in that. Number one, your fundraising is going to dry up. She's not going to raise as much money. Well, if your fundraising dries up, you have to start laying off staff because you have over 1,000 staffers. This is what happened to Kamala Harris. She had to start laying off staff. First, it was in South Carolina and in other states, and then she dropped out because she just wasn't raising enough money. So Elizabeth Warren has been staffing up all over the country, but if you come in a distant third place, the fundraising dries up. Then, if you're Elizabeth Warren, you have to think about your political future. I hope if Bernie Sanders is watching, he is not a nice enough guy to ever have her in his administration. After what she did, the trick she pulled, stabbing him in the front. She didn't stab him in the back. She stabbed him in the front. So I hope Bernie Sanders is not considering choosing her as vice president, Treasury Secretary, or dog catcher in his administration. I'm just being real. You can't have people around you that you cannot trust. But if Elizabeth Warren comes in a distant third, if her money dries up, she has to think about her political future. She doesn't want to be embarrassed in New Hampshire, which is right next to Massachusetts, where she's from. If she's embarrassed in New Hampshire, she's not going to be a very attractive pick as vice president or anything for definitely not Bernie, but Pete, if he were to be able to win, Biden, if he comes out of the ashes, which I don't see happening. He's seeming more and more incoherent every time he speaks. So I think Elizabeth Warren is the biggest loser here if those numbers stay the same. Then we go on to Uncle Joe Biden. Uncle Joe Biden. Thank you, R, $20 in a super chat. Apologies if I'm not hitting every super chat, but they're just coming so fast. But keep it coming. We really appreciate it. Then we have Uncle Joe Biden. Uncle Joe Biden is the most electable candidate, according to the bourgeoisie. But Uncle Joe Biden, if these numbers stay the same, is at 16%. And Jen, if you could send me in, if you don't mind, how many members we have, because I'm seeing a bunch of people signing up. So I want to alert every time we get a new member. If Joe Biden comes in a distant fourth place in Iowa, a white state, a state that's, fairly moderate voters, I really don't know what momentum you could have. Like, the polls can continue to say that he's leading among black voters, but there are other polls coming out that show South Carolina, a recent poll came out that Bernie Sanders was only 5 points behind Joe Biden in South Carolina. Pete Buttigieg is still polling at like 3 or 4% among black people in South Carolina and around the country. I don't think that's going up to like 10, 15%. So if Joe Biden is in a fourth place in Iowa, his fundraising is going to dry up. All right, we are now at 1,039 members. So we just got another 4 Status Coup members. Can we get up to 1,050 by the end of this live stream? We got 11 more members to go to get up to 1,050. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month. So Biden's fundraising is going to dry up if he comes in fourth place in Iowa. It's already dried up. He has less cash on hand than Bernie Sanders, Warren, and Pete Buttigieg. You think the bourgeoisie, you think the plutocrats are going to start funneling him with money if he came in, if the last vice president of the United Corporations of America came in fourth place? I mean, second or third, maybe, but a fourth? Then you have Minnesota nice Amy Klobuchar. If these numbers remain the same and she comes in a distant fifth, I mean, to tell you the truth, it would not surprise me if Amy Klobuchar drops out before New Hampshire. And I'll tell you why. Amy Klobuchar is an ambitious politician, just like the rest of them. And Amy Klobuchar is running to be vice president. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. She's a senator. She's basically a Republican senator based on the policies, but she's a senator. But I think Amy Klobuchar kind of knew it would be an uphill climb to become president. But a lot of people run for president with the goal of putting themselves in position to be vice president, secretary of state, what have you. Amy Klobuchar, right now, there might be talks. Joe Biden's people trying to get her to drop out, consolidate that vote, get those Amy people, that whatever the percentage is in New Hampshire, get those Amy people over to Joe Biden. Same thing might be happening with Pete Buttigieg. Get those Amy people over to me in New Hampshire. And Iowa was her best chance. Again, to be fair, this is only 62%. It's only 62% of the precinct. So all of these numbers could change. Warren could go up. Biden can go up. Klobuchar can go up. The final result can. But if Amy Klobuchar comes in fifth place in Iowa, which is right next to Minnesota, and she says she could win Midwest states, I don't see her staying in before the New Hampshire primary. I really don't. Could be wrong, but I don't see it because she's polling pretty poorly in New Hampshire as well. So to me, if this all stays the same, maybe Bernie goes up a little closer. But if all things are equal and Buttigieg and Bernie finish very close to each other, Warren in a distant third place, I think it sets up one or two storylines here. For Bernie, I don't think it really changes much. If he wins the popular vote, his campaign will get a whole lot of money coming in. I'm sure right now people are fundraising and donating to Bernie because they're just so outraged at the way this has been handled. And obviously, all the things I'm reporting, all the things Lee Fang has reported, do Bernie Sanders supporters, do the progressive movement really trust that all of these things are coincidences? I don't. I don't trust that. Holy cow! Terrell! Holy cow, we just got another new member. Wow! Jen, let me know when you're at 10. We're at 1,040 status Coup members. 1,040 status Coup members. Can we get another 10 before we sign off? Keep it coming. So what I'm going to do, it's a little low tech. But I want to get Jen in here. I'm calling you, Jen. Hold on one second. So, Status Coup co-founder Jen Dye's on the phone. Jen,
Hello, everyone.
you're always down with a great conspiracy theory.
I love a good conspiracy theory.
Is this a conspiracy theory or is this intentional?
So I've been scouring the news and watching the news and looking at all the pundits on Twitter and all that. And so a lot of them are trying to paint a picture of any person who supports Bernie or any leftist or anyone who questions this at all as just being a nutso conspiracy theorist, just totally out of our minds. But when you look at the facts, and that's the thing, like, yeah, I enjoy a good conspiracy theory, but there's a line
Wait, just to be clear, there is a connection between JFK's assassination and Epstein.
Well, in the way that the CIA is involved in both, yeah. I cannot journalistically confirm any of this.
Okay.
But anyway, going back to what's happening now, there are just simple facts. It was Pete's campaign that got that Des Moines Register CNN poll spiked. something that has not happened in 73 years since its inception, I believe. I know it's been 73 years. I believe that must have been when it was created, because I think this was a historical first of that poll not being released. And then we have whatever the heck it was that you would call what happened last night. We have all of these connections between Pete Buttigieg and this app. This app that Status Coup, by the way, early on reported was likely to be an issue. And we had people pushing back against us and saying, no, that's crazy. They're going to have paper results. It's not going to be a problem. The app is going to be totally fine. Clearly, it was not. Because as people see, yeah, sure, they do have the results. Somewhere, there are the real results. Yeah, they definitely did keep a paper trail. But what happens is, if they can't quickly report the real correct results of what happened at those precincts, now we have this narrative of Pete Buttigieg, who can come out on stage with zero results reported last night and declare himself the winner. And then we have this situation where they can say that the IDP, the Iowa Democratic Party, can say, oh, well, we're a day, almost 24 hours later, we're going to release 62% of the results, which just so happened to have Pete Buttigieg at the lead. And it just so happens to be not the full results, of course. It just so happens that Troy Price, the leader here of the IDP, will not say and refuse to say when 100% of the results would be reported, and just kind of looked down at his podium instead of answering the question that was asked of him literally 5 times. And then as Jordan reported, this app has wild connections with Pete. Pete's campaign we can't confirm a direct connection with, Pete paid for this app, but we can say, Shadow developed this app. The Iowa Democratic Party paid into this app, and Pete's campaign paid a heck of a lot of money. It's a lot. I think, Jordan, you've already reported the FEC results, but there's definite connections there. There's definite connections with the leaders of Shadow, which is surrounded by Acronym and other shadow groups, and just the whole establishment is behind this, and they all lead back to Mayor Pete.
The app is called Shadow, for God's sakes.
I know. I tweeted last night, I said, if we're going to have a corruption app, can we at least not name it Shadow? Like this, if someone were submitting this as a script for a political movie drama or something like that, it would be immediately rejected because it's just so absurd. It's insane. So, yeah, here we have, I'm watching CNN in the background, as Jordan's reporting, just trying to keep up with all the news on Twitter. And the media is able to spin this any way they want to. The campaigns, especially Mayor Pete's campaign, is able to spin this in absolutely any way they want to. So the results, when they do come in, and I still, as a person, not as a journalist, I still hope that they come in as with Bernie leading not only in the popular vote, but also with the delegates. But by that time, here we will have spent hours with Pete in New Hampshire with the little smirk on his face, declaring victory again, just like he did last night.
I want to bring something up that isn't being talked about, but we reported it actually a couple weeks ago. Maybe we'll post it under the video description after the live stream. Pete Buttigieg, his first mayoral campaign, was bankrolled and funded by a whole lot of Obama administration staffers and advisors. So there is a connection dating back to 2010 with Obama world people, Hillary Clinton world people, the same donors that gave to Obama, Hillary Clinton, funding some rando guy running for mayor of South Bend, Indiana. So it's not like, the fact that the app Shadow, the chief executive officer, the chief technology officer, chief operating officer, the lead product developer, all worked for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Acronym, the CEO of Acronym, who is the main investor in Shadow, is married to Pete Buttigieg's senior strategist. So even if you didn't want to call it, even if you wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, this wasn't intentional. They weren't trying to rig it for Pete. Even if you wanted to do that, even if you wanted to do that, obviously, Li Fang's great reporting. And by the way, if we could fund somebody like Li Fang, Li Fang, my bad, Li Fang. His reporting showed that people within the company were like, why are we keeping it a secret? So clearly, and that's why I made a point of saying, everybody's talking about the Iowa State Democratic Party, but the Iowa State Democratic Party is just a vessel for the DNC. The DNC runs the state parties. They have the final say in how things go. And the DNC was the one pushing for there to be an app in Iowa and Nevada. The DNC was probably the one pushing not to reveal who the hell made the app, who funds the app. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And the secret, we always thought that the secrecy surrounding the app was absolutely absurd. And now we have reporting saying that Shadow was confused too. And they're like, oh yeah, we totally nudged them to release our name. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But now it's pretty clear, like we can easily see why the Iowa Democratic Party, the DNC, whoever it was, didn't want their name released. Because not only, and Jordan, I don't remember because I was going back and forth looking at other reporting and results and stuff, but going through all of these crazy shadow app connections, and I know you talked about acronym, but there's also PACronym, which is a super PAC. So for anyone who maybe didn't hear earlier, there's just wild kind of a web of establishment Democrat people, Hillary people, Obama people, but also funders. These very wealthy people, including let's see. So we have, as I said, PACronym, which is a super PAC. So we have Seth Klarman. So this is reporting out of the Gray Zone by Max Blumenthal. But Shadow Inc. was launched by a major Democratic dark money nonprofit called Acronym, which also gave birth to a $7.7 million super PAC known as Acronym. So this is part of the web. So it goes to Pete Buttigieg backer, this really rich guy, Seth Klarman, who has, we could do a whole story on just him, but believe me, he's got a lot of shady connections. Pete Buttigieg supporter, he's behind this with his money. Also, we have Sussman, Donald Sussman, who we've also reported on before. He's a PACronym donor.
Hey, Donald Sussman was mentioned in the Panama Papers. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal at all. But he gave $1 million to this super PAC. He was also a top donor to Clinton back in her 2016 run. And as a lot of people will remember, his lovely, and I put that in air quotes, daughter, Emily Tish Sussman, was the one one of the ones who declared on MSNBC in September that if you support Bernie over Elizabeth Warren, then you're showing your sexism. So that whole family seems to be real neutral in obviously I'm being sarcastic, but there's a whole lot of shady stuff going on. They all lead back to Mayor Pete. The fact that he declared victory last night at 0 results in is insane. And I know...
By the way, I just got a breaking news alert from our friend Peter Hager. Donald Sussman is Debbie Wasserman Schultz's largest donor, too.
Oh, of course.
So the corruption goes full circle.
The corruption goes real deep there. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's not a surprise. It should be a surprise if we lived in an actual democracy, but it's not. I don't know. I don't remember what I was saying before we got Peter's update, but I think in general, the fact that Pete last night was declaring victory, the fact that we have all these Pete connections, the fact that his campaign had the most important Iowa poll spiked, and the fact that he just in the past hour went live from New Hampshire to again declare himself the victor after 62% of results are in. It's all very suspect. It's all very shady. I saw earlier in the comments they're going pretty quick. We have such a great audience, but someone said, leave the conspiracy theories to the Republicans. Well, when it comes down to facts, and that's my point, is this is not a conspiracy theory. We are simply telling you facts. So at some point you have a list of facts ahead of you that point you in a certain direction, and you have to to use, like, not to be rude, but like use your brain. You're a person who has eyes and can see what's going on. So we can't sit here complacently and just like some of these, in air quotes again, journalists on TV, these reporters on TV just saying like, oh yeah, this is totally fine and normal and everyone's being crazy who thinks there's something wrong. There's something wrong. This is not normal. This has never happened before, ever.
Well, can I make a point too? And this is beyond Bernie Sanders. This is incredibly unfair to, as far as I could see, almost 2,000 volunteers that came to Iowa for Bernie Sanders. To be fair, however many came to Iowa for Elizabeth Warren. There was, I don't know if there were many for Biden, but I do know that there was a lot of volunteers here for Bernie Sanders from around the country. Some of them from around the world came to knock on doors for him. I think Elizabeth Warren, she's not my favorite person, but she did have a whole lot of volunteers. So you have people literally taking vacation time to come knock on doors for the candidate that they're most passionate about, whether it's Bernie, whether it's Warren, whatever. You have people taking sick days. I met people that quit their jobs to come here and knock on doors. And they are doing it because what we're told is we live in a democracy, and they do all that. And even according to the popular vote, Bernie is in the lead. But even when you do everything right, even when Bernie Sanders' campaign does everything right, I mean, his campaign is a well-oiled machine compared to 2016.
Yes, for sure.
They still get screwed, whether it's intentional or gross incompetence. And I agree with you. Like, we can't for certain say that this was intentional. That's why I try to couch everything with, well, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But
right.
I don't know. But what I do know is there's a revolving door in the United Corporations of America. And I call it the United Corporations of America for a reason. Between the banks, the lobbyists, the corporate media, the corporations, and the think tanks, all of them, and now big tech. And it's just interesting that all of these alliances, all of the funding for these companies, it all goes back to neoliberal corporate politicians. And I find that suspect. And I also think if we weren't living in such an insane news cycle where nothing matters anymore because there's another crazy story an hour later, the Des Moines Register has a whole lot of explaining to do. How you don't release a poll. Because why that's important, Jen, and the audience, a lot of people, I don't know the exact number, but a lot of people make their decision in the final days. So
yes.
The polls, it doesn't totally inform their decision, but the polls do matter. People look at a poll and be like, wow, maybe Bernie can really win. And I like Bernie, so they would go to him. Or, I liked Pete, but, he's doesn't look like he's going to win. So like, the polls matter.
Yeah, of course. So the polls matter so much. And I think a lot of people who are watching are super duper into politics like we are. You're on top of everything. And I think people lose sight of what the American electorate is actually like. So people vote based on what people's last names are and what, if they end on a consonant or a vowel. They vote on what someone looks like. They vote on whether someone's a male or a female. They vote on whether, CNN said that they're, propped them up that day or not. People don't get as into politics as we do here on this chat and here on this channel. And people lose sight of the psychological factor here. So not reporting that poll on the last day was major in a way that most people don't realize, I think, because just as you say, Jordan, people make their decisions in the last moments. It's hard enough to get people out there to the caucus sites, but you have all of these undecided. So you have people who do actually choose to go, even though they aren't decided or not. They literally, in these caucuses, try to make their point. These campaigns and supporters try to make their point to these undecided people so that they switch around. So the fact that people are so on the fence at the last moment, these polls do matter. The narrative around the polls matter. The media narrative around the polls matters. the fact that right now this is a total, as I said, I have CNN on the background so I can keep track of everything. The fact that it's a total Pete show right now, the fact that for hours they're going to have Pete's name at the top of the list of who's getting the most state delegate equivalents in Iowa, that matters psychologically to the people who are about to vote in New Hampshire. This matters to the people who are about to vote all around the country. The psychology of this matters so much. And Pete is getting a major, major win because part of the appeal, most of you are probably very aware that Iowa doesn't have that many delegates. You know, when it all comes down to it, they don't matter that much in the race, but they matter because of the psychology of it and because they are the first in the nation and they kick everything off. So people kind of get an idea of who they might want to vote for, who they might not want to vote for. If their favorite candidate didn't do as well as they had hoped, they might switch on their ballot to someone else who they think can win, because people often do vote based on who might have a chance, who might actually win. So it's really frustrating that right now we just have a total Pete fest all over the media right now, all of our social media. It's really great for Pete, really bad for Bernie. I do still think that Bernie will come out the winner in the end. I mean, I don't know. I was texting Anat earlier and I was like, I'm really gutted, as a person that Bernie in this 62% of results released so far, that Bernie wasn't ahead, because I expected that he would be based on his internal polling, based on everything we saw. And when I saw Pete there at the head, I was I was not happy, and I kind of got down a little bit. But I think, when you examine the facts and when you examine Bernie's internal results, when you look at the actual reporting from the precincts, I still think Bernie will kind of squeak this out. This should have been much, much more of a win, and we'll have to see what happens as the results come in. But it's really corrupt. There's just so many pieces to this, and I'm sure we'll keep on reporting on everything that's going on. It's just an entire mess, a giant mess.
Thank you, Jen. And by the way, Jen has, I think, what did you sleep, like 2 hours since last night?
Yeah, so last night, once all this went down with the app and everything, and Li Fang, again, was the first who reported that Shadow was involved, and then HuffPo did a follow-up right after that, I kind of got obsessed. And I just sat in bed and researched nonstop, so I basically did not sleep because I wanted to get to the bottom of this. It was so shocking, so unprecedented. So
Thank you for your help. Can't do it without you.
Before you hang up, let me just say, Jordan has been working, I just talked about, me working, but that's nothing compared to what Jordan's been doing. He literally went live for 4 hours yesterday, barely got some water. Thank God for Jamal, who went and got him some water so he didn't just, faint on the carpet. But it's a lot. Not only is Jordan working day to night, not doing anything else but reporting on Iowa, but interviewing people, but catching up with contacts and trying to figure it all out. There's no sleep to be had. There's no fun to be had. It's all very immersive once you're out in the field. So I don't think people realize that, to just know how hard Jordan is working, and also know that Iowa caucus surge pricing is insane. The flights were crazy high. The rental car was the highest we've ever seen. We probably could have bought some junky car for that we had to for the cost of insurance, because it's so snowy and dangerous. So it all really, really adds up. I cannot tell you how happy I am and how amazed I am and how many new members we've gotten, because you guys all see the hard work Jordan's putting in. You all appreciate this infield reporting, that nobody else is doing it like this at all. And it's just been incredible. The super chats are rolling in. I'm looking down at the super chat screen right now, and there's just a bunch of red ones, which the red ones are like $100, $200. That's just so amazing. It warms my heart. But more important than that, it helps us do infield and investigative reporting. And Jordan's off to New Hampshire next. Like, he's not going to stop and rest. He's on this. So if you can join as a member, it's just $5 a month. It helps so much. You might think, oh, $5, it's nothing. It doesn't make a difference. I promise you it makes a huge difference. So please go to statuscoup.com/join. If you're already a member, please go to paypal.me/statuscoup, and you can donate any amount to this reporting and to Jordan's New Hampshire trip that's upcoming. You can also go to gofundme.com/status-coup-news. And I just, like, keep the super chats coming. I cannot believe the size of the audience these past few days. It's just the energy, the momentum. It's all incredible, and it all matters. And yeah, we're going to keep bringing you the truth and the news and everything that happens through this crazy Democratic primary cycle.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was fun. We'll figure out a way to get her to Skype in so it looks a little better next time. But for the 2,600 people watching, I want to remind you just who we're dealing with. I want to remind you just who we are dealing with in Pete Buttigieg. For those who are, oh, by the way, Jen, if you don't mind, could you send me an update of how many members we have? I'd like to update the audience on how many members we have. But I want to remind you who Pete Buttigieg is, that from everything I can see, they are really lifting Pete Buttigieg up. And if you don't know much about Pete Buttigieg, that makes sense because they basically none of the media actually reported on the real Pete Buttigieg. There was media that went to South Bend, Indiana, but none of them actually talked to any black people. None of them actually looked into what the heck did this guy do as mayor. To be fair, the Young Turks did do some reporting on Pete Buttigieg, so I want to give them credit. Putting aside everything else, they deserve credit. They did do some good reporting on Pete Buttigieg, but no other outlets really did. TheRoot.com did some reporting, but as far as I know, Jamal and I were the only reporters out there that actually went there and spoke with African Americans and put it on camera. So Jamal and I, a couple weeks ago, we drove around. We had a tour guide, a longtime resident of South Bend. He didn't want to be on camera, so we kept him off camera. But he sat in the passenger seat while we drove around South Bend. Listen, I've been all around the country. I've been to Flint 15 times. I've been to East Chicago, Indiana. I've been to Detroit. I've been to Milwaukee. I've been to some really run-down neighborhoods, okay? What I saw in South Bend, I haven't seen anywhere else. So for those of you that don't know, because the media doesn't report anything negative, Pete Buttigieg's claim to fame. He says his biggest accomplishment in South Bend, other than gentrifying South Bend, other than making 5 blocks beautiful for affluent white people while driving black people out of the city, he says his shining accomplishment was something called 1,000 houses in 1,000 days. He said that he was running for mayor in 2010. All he heard from residents was about the falling apart houses all over the neighborhoods, mostly black and brown neighborhoods, houses that roofs were falling in, decrepit, really just a stain visually on South Bend. So he said the people asked him to knock them down, and that's what he did. But these weren't homes with, that were just like deadbeat owners who just left them to rot. These were homes with a lot of poor black and brown people who wanted to fix them up, but couldn't afford it. Because we live in a United Corporations of America where people have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to pay their bills now, let alone fixing the leaky roof, fixing the door, fixing whatever was wrong. So within 1,000 days, he just knocked them all down. By the way, didn't take even the most basic steps to make sure the way they knocked them down was environmentally safe. We spoke with people that talked about the asbestos, the lead in the air, chemicals in the air, all sorts of things flying around the air for weeks after they bulldozed these homes. So Jamal shot this. Sorry if you've already seen it, but to our new viewers, I want to show you who Pete Buttigieg really is, that the Des Moines Register just propped up, the Iowa State Democratic Party just propped up, the DNC is propping up. Let's take a look.
But you've received some backlash from me and from others about your 1,000 Houses in 1,000 Days initiative, and something you have touted as a success. But the issue is it disproportionately affected African Americans in South Bend, and African Americans constitute 26% of the population in South Bend. And in fact, African Americans who weren't able to repair their homes lost their homes. They were either demoed or they were sold to white folks.
Wow, it looks like a forest in the city. Empty lots. So right there you got beautiful museum and rebuilt castles, and right behind it you have fallen apart, empty lots, forests in the city. This is all under Buttigieg. And the streets, although you're not experiencing them with us, I can tell you they're not even. Look at this. Just looks like a war zone. It's amazing to me because he's presented this as one of his shining achievements, but what's the achievement of it? There's nothing to show for it. Behind me is a homeless shelter. Not really a shelter. It looks more like condominium that they made for homeless people, which is a good thing. But unfortunately, here on the south side where this is, there's no services to speak of. This is kind of like, this is the south side, but the west side is a few blocks over. And as we've been driving through the west side into the south side, there's not a drugstore to speak of. There's not a laundromat to speak of. There's not a supermarket to speak of. There's nothing. Just closed down businesses, closed down junkyards, empty lots. This lot here has been empty for 7 years. Homes used to be there, but Buttigieg, his crowning achievement, he claims, when he came into office was 1,000 homes in 1,000 days. Demolition crews came through here right in the beginning of his administration and just bulldozed all the homes there. In this lot, over here to the left, these were all homes, vacant homes, that most of them were not in use, but the black people I've spoken in town to, the working people I've spoken in town to, this was, for most of them, the only generational wealth they had. It was passed down to them from their grandparents, from their parents, and because they're poor, they didn't have the money to upkeep, pay electricity, fix the roof. You know, they didn't have the income because of their status, being poor or being black or being brown. And Buttigieg just decided, let's get rid of all of them. Yeah, they were vacant, but they were still owned by these citizens, mostly poor, mostly black. But this has been empty here for 7 years, a vacant lot. So it seems he bulldozed things with no plan what to rebuild them with. And yes, it's nice that there's a nice newer building for the homeless, but there's no services here. We also haven't seen a bus line or any form of transportation for blocks. So how are they supposed to quote unquote lift themselves up from the bootstraps, as people like to say on the right and some on the left, with no services, no transportation, no nothing? It's very similar in parts of Detroit, Flint, Cleveland. It's happening everywhere. Tearing down certain communities where certain classes of people live.
with no plans to rebuild. So a lot of money was given to the Heritage Foundation, and they pick and choose which houses they want to fix up. And it looks like they're not doing much fixing up around here. Whereas this street, it's a little better pavement. To my right is poor people's housing. So you got affordable housing on your right. But same story, not a lot of services around here.
To white folks, and the bottom line is home ownership is an American dream, and it's a way to close the wealth gap. And this has been a huge obstacle for African Americans. So what do you say to me and other African American voters about that initiative? Was that really a success?
Yeah, so remember, this was an initiative on vacant and abandoned homes. By definition, no home was torn down unless it was already collapsing and nobody lived in it. There's this
Maybe it was
story going around
they couldn't afford to fix it.
This is the one house that Mayor Buttigieg's administration forgot to bulldoze next to a vacant lot that's been vacant for 7 years. Here's more vacant lot where he bulldozed. Nothing rebuilt, just bulldozing homes that were owned by poor people. Probably they're one of the few things that was owned and passed down in the generations in their families, just bulldozed with no plan or even idea for replacement. Here's another business in the west side of South Bend that Mayor Buttigieg's redevelopment commission paid to leave. A lumber company made wood, other items like wood, used to be here, sensing a growing pattern of businesses, some of which were minority owned, that Mayor Pete Buttigieg's redevelopment commission, which essentially, city by city, you have these redevelopment commissions, which are made up of real estate types, big business, chamber of commerce folks, and they're really that's just a fancy term for the gentrification demolition crew, where they're essentially giving tax abatements, tax giveaways, subsidies to big business to come in to their downtown areas and lure in bars, restaurants, retail, big tech, the bidding war over Amazon, for example, while they're actually paying on the other side of town, usually where black and brown people live and working poor, including whites, they're paying businesses that once stood here to leave and go, in this case, east to Mishawaka. Why would a mayor be paying to drive business out of town? Well, the only reason you would be paying to drive businesses out of certain parts of town where working people live, where black people live, is if you want to starve them of jobs and services. Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Last video, hop on over to StarTech.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for
So that was our reporting in South Bend, Indiana. By the way, Jamal, who's behind the camera right now, shot and edited that whole thing. And the crazy thing, what is that, like 25% of the footage we actually have? We have so much more footage. I mean, we might have to make a documentary out of it if this Pete charade keeps going. But what's amazing to me about that, and by the way, just want to say, wow. All right, Jen, let me know when you see more of that. But we are seeing, we don't know if we can't confirm it, but we are seeing reports that Elizabeth Warren's campaign is canceling flights to South Carolina and Nevada, which kind of goes with what I was saying earlier, that if the results stay what they are, she has to win New Hampshire. She has to win New Hampshire or come in a close second place. She has to win New Hampshire or come in a close second place or she's done. So we don't know for sure if it's true, but they are saying, they're saying my mic. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's how you hold it. See it.
Okay. Better now, better now. So they are saying, we'll see if we could confirm that, but right now they're saying that Elizabeth Warren is canceling flights to South Carolina and Nevada, which makes sense because she's going to spend all her time in New Hampshire if the results are true in Iowa and she came in a distant third place. So I want to also alert you. We are now at 1,056 Status Coup members. So we have added 21 new members since we've been live. Statuscoup.com/join. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. All our new members, keep it coming. Statuscoup.com/join. By the way, as far as I know, we are the only crew that went to South Bend, Indiana, and actually drove around and showed you those empty lots. And you can find that video right on our YouTube. We'll post it in the description of this video after we're live. We're the only outlet that gave a damn to do that. And this is how neoliberalism works. The corporate media invents candidates out of thin air. Pete Buttigieg doesn't have any qualifications to be president. His only qualification is basically selling out a deindustrialized Midwest city to real estate developers and gentrifying it. That's his only qualification. Oh, he was a McKinsey consultant where he worked as a McKinsey consultant for Blue Cross Blue Shield, which then skyrocketed your health insurance rates. He did that. Was a Harvard Rhodes Scholar. Good for him. He doesn't have any qualifications that... Oh, he served in the military. Thank you. What's his qualifications to run for president? But the media, it's like they put him in a machine, they bounce him around, they give him some things to say, and then CNN, MSNBC don't show you the truth of what they've done. This is racism, straight up. This is straight up. And you know what? Some people might get the wrong idea here, but I'd actually like to bring Jamal on. I want to know what he thinks of this, because I'm a white dude. Yeah, I had some Jew jokes once in a while, but I've never been profiled by the police. I've never had politicians basically drive me out of my city. And I remember when Jamal and I were driving around doing this, he was absolutely stunned because he had an idea about Pete Buttigieg based on what he was told from the media. So I don't want you to get the wrong, Jordan's bringing on his black guy. But I really think I want to know what a black American thinks looking at the media basically drooling over someone that does this. And by the way, that was just one video. We interviewed at least a dozen residents from Black Lives Matter. We interviewed Eric Logan, who's the brother, Tyree Bond, who's the brother of Eric Logan, who was murdered by one of Pete Buttigieg's police officers, who wasn't wearing a body camera when he shot him dead. We interviewed the brother, who said when Pete Buttigieg met with his family after his brother was murdered, didn't even have anything to say. Oh, by the way, within a few hours of being in South Bend, I found out that as South Bend police were arresting a black man, they were imitating KKK members from the film Django Unchained. When I reached out to Pete Buttigieg's campaign, they refused to respond. When I reached out to his police chief, the police chief lied and said it wasn't South Bend police officers, which I later showed was a lie. Oh, now we're at 1,057 members. 1,057 Status Coup members. Come on over here. I wanted to see what you thought.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I'll be brief. Going over to South Bend with Jordan just really broke my heart. Seeing what people who look like me were going through, having to deal with, basically, gentrification, gentrification at a massive scale. Like, we literally saw the result of people losing their property, losing their homes, and losing all the wealth that they had. Just because a greedy politician, like Jordan mentioned, just sold out the people of his own city for money. And it was like sitting there and listening to these painful stories really, 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 I almost wanted to cry, it was just very painful. And I know that it opened my eyes to Pete Buttigieg because, it's a tactic that many politicians around the country, they use the same thing. They sell out their own people for, the money that the real estate developers offer to them. And, it really educated me about how the process works, how gentrification works, how people disenfranchise people. We hear about disenfranchisement, but how does it happen? What are the nitty-gritty things that have to happen in order for basically gentrification to take place? So as an African American, it really did open my eyes to the process, and now I know better. I know what a politician like Pete Buttigieg is. I know his tactics. I know how they operate. They come into a city, right? They have all these propped up credentials. They come from privileged backgrounds. They go to elite schools. They get the best education, and then they're propped up, and they're put in positions of power, and they take the power away from the people. It's just crazy, like staticky. It's probably in the laptop. How's it now? Yeah, so just as a message for anyone who wasn't aware, Pete Buttigieg is a monster. Really look at the documentary that me and Jordan put together. We have more coming. And it's like, now my eyes are open. And we want to open everybody's eyes to the reality of gentrification and Pete Buttigieg. So, yeah.
Yeah, check if there's loose audio.
You're not as technical as this. It's okay.
So, sorry if there's a mic issue. We're going to figure it out now so we can keep going. So, what I think you should also know, for those of you that don't know, after we reported the story about Pete Buttigieg's Pete Buttigieg's police officers, essentially imitating Klansmen from Django, the film Django with Jamie Foxx, where he was a freed slave and the KKK was trying to kill him. After we reported that and reported that Buttigieg won't respond to us, after we reported that his police chief was lying about it, claiming it wasn't officers from South Bend Police Department, guess what? We were kicked off Pete Buttigieg's email list. We were getting emails with campaign events, press releases from the campaign events where we could apply for credentials to go cover it. They kicked us off of his email list. So what does that tell you? A startup, not the New York Times, but a low-level startup, does critical coverage of you, and all of a sudden, you're kicked off the email list. You can't cover his events. Oh, by the way, just so happens that our website went down twice when we reported critically on Pete Buttigieg. Our website never went down once. Our website isn't great. We need to redo it. More status Coup members help. We do need money to redo our website. But we've never had it go down. But the first time it went down was when we reported critically on Pete Buttigieg. Right after I reached out to Pete Buttigieg's campaign for comment and the South Bend Police Department for comment, all of a sudden, the website goes down. You want to call me a conspiracy theorist? Go ahead, but that never happened before. Oh, sound was instantly fixed when the laptop was gone, so it was the laptop. Good to know. Good to know. It was laptop interference. Because I was like, damn, we paid like $800 for this mic. Better work. So, all right. Next time we won't use the laptop right in front of me. So, what now? And Jen, keep me coming. Keep me knowing. Keep me in the loop as far as how many members we have. I think we have 1,000. What's the last one? 1,057 members. Holy cow. Can we get to 1,075 status quo members today? Holy cow. I got a 6 a.m. flight out of Des Moines, so I hope that would really help me having to wake up at 6 a.m. What do we got to wake up at 4? Holy cow. That would be wonderful. So let me give you my closing thoughts here, okay? The Democratic Party, the DNC, should not be in control of the electoral process. They should not have control of the electoral process because they have proved that they are corrupt. They have proved that they are corrupt. The state parties, the DNC, they have shown that they are either wildly corrupt or wildly incompetent. Wildly corrupt or wildly incompetent. Who knows? But they can no longer be held in charge. The other thing I will say, and this is a real test to Bernie Sanders' campaign, and I really say Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders has the final decision-making power, so it's up to him if they're going to be aggressive. But I think they should come out swinging on this. I think they should call this corrupt because it is. I think they should attack Pete Buttigieg, not physically, but I think they should verbally attack Pete Buttigieg as putting out misinformation, as lying to the American people that he is winning the Iowa caucus. They should not allow Pete Buttigieg to go around New Hampshire claiming he's been victorious in the Iowa caucus. They should go after CNN, and MSNBC has already reported that, oh, Pete Buttigieg is victorious in Iowa. Bernie Sanders' campaign needs to be on offense. Yes, he's winning the popular vote, but the media is going to set a narrative, and it's going to be 2016 all over again. Sanders' campaign says they believe they will win when they get to 100% reporting. John King reporting that. So CNN's John King is reporting that Bernie's campaign believes that once it's all said and done, he will get to 100%. But here's the problem, Jen, and thank you for the updates. When are we going to know the 100% results? The Iowa Democratic chairman was asked, when are you going to give us the rest of the results? When I feel like it. When we have it. I don't know. Maybe in the general election we'll tell you. It's not enough. We need the rest of the results tonight. You can't allow this to go on. Donald Trump has his State of the Union, I believe, today? Jen, is the State of the Union tonight or tomorrow? I'm losing track. The New Hampshire debate is Friday. We can't go into the New Hampshire debate Friday without knowing who won the Iowa caucus. It's going to allow Pete Buttigieg to stand on stage claiming he was victorious. And what Jen said is right. There is most people voting are not political diehards. Most people voting are not political diehards. They're just tuning in now, right before their respective state votes. So most people are going to be like, oh, that guy won the Iowa caucus because Chris Matthews tells me so. Because Wolf Blitzer told me so. Oh, my Lord. Wow. State of the Union is today. Wow, we just got another 10 members because one of our wonderful, generous members is willing to sponsor 10 new members. So for those of you watching that cannot pay, you just got a generous benefactor, I won't mention his name, who willing to sponsor 10 new members. So I'm going to make Jen's head explode. Email statuscoup.com, email info@statuscoup.com. The first 10 people that want a free, well, it's not free because he's paying for it, but the first 10 people that email, hey, I can't afford a membership, but I'd like to be sponsored, you're going to get those membership slots. So with that, we are now at 1,069. 1,069 Status Coup members. I can't even believe it. I think, Jen, when we came here, were we even at 900? When we came here to Iowa, were we even at 900? I don't even remember at this point. We grew over 100 last night. We've grown so many while we're live now. It's truly unbelievable. I can't thank you guys enough. I love it. My Aunt Debbie and my cousin Karen are from Massachusetts, and they're both texting me, hey, Jordan, we're at a Bernie rally in New Hampshire. Are you here? So I texted them, no, I'm in Iowa. I'm coming Friday. So, small note. So we'll see what happens. I mean, listen, Jamal and I are traveling tomorrow, so it's very doubtful I'll be live. If I'm awake, maybe I'll go live later in the day when I land, but I got to be up at 4 a.m., so I don't know if I'll be live tomorrow. But we will update you as new news develops. At this point, we really, truly do not know. We do not know when they will report the rest of the results. This is truly absurd. It's truly absurd. Oh, I see the emails coming in. People want to be sponsored. We just got another paid member, so now we're at 1,070, I believe. Holy cow. 1,070 members. And just so you guys know, if you don't know, and sorry if I'm a broken record, membership, you're not just supporting us. There's something in it for you, too. We have monthly video calls with our members, Jen and I, where we don't do it through YouTube. We do it through Zoom. And you don't have to be on video. You could mute your video. So if you don't want to be visually seen, that's okay, too. We did 2 of them last month. We're going to do another one this month. It's a lot of fun. We do it for an hour or 2. We take your questions, comments, concerns, ideas. We laugh. We cry. It's just joyous. We do behind-the-scenes videos. And if we could get our membership up, if we could keep getting this funding to increase, one of our goals long-term is to have somebody dedicated just to members content, because we really want our members to be getting something out of it. So right now, we just don't have the bandwidth for that. But right now, we are pumping out as much content as we can just for our members. So we're at 1,070 members right now. Holy shnikes. This is amazing. This is amazing. So the final thing I'll say before I end, we need to look at a few things. Number one, the Bernie Sanders campaign better have lawyers on the phone with the Democratic National Committee. Screw the Iowa State Democratic Party. Like I've been saying, it isn't the Iowa State Democratic Party that's pulling the strings here. It is the DNC. Number 2, they better make sure that this app is not used in Nevada. Nevada is the 3rd state. Right now, Bernie Sanders, according to the polls, is in a very, very close 2nd place, and he's leading among Latino voters, which is huge in Nevada. 3rd, depending on how this shakes out, again, the results will change when the remaining 38% of the precincts come through. This could be really good news. This could be really good news for Bernie Sanders if he takes both the popular vote and this. But also, Elizabeth Warren, if she comes in a distant 3rd place, then is a must win. Well, right now, she is far behind in New Hampshire. Right now, if she loses and comes in a distant 3rd place, her fundraising is going to dry up. So her campaign is really in a bad position. Contrary to what the corporate media says, even if Elizabeth Warren drops out, her voters, the majority of her voters, don't necessarily sprint to Bernie Sanders. A lot of her voters are upper middle class, wealthy white folk that might go to Pete Buttigieg, that might go to Joe Biden, that might go elsewhere, might go to Michael Bloomberg. Oh, we haven't even gotten to Michael Bloomberg. So just because Elizabeth Warren drops out, yes, there is a good chunk of her voters that have Bernie as second choice. But just the demographics, they're not only Bernie. Bernie is not the only person that would pick up her voters. But to me, the two biggest losers, if these results come in, I'm talking imminently. Warren, number one, because New Hampshire is a must win. If she doesn't win New Hampshire, I don't think her campaign can continue. And Biden, because Biden is claiming to be the most electable, but if you come in fourth place in Iowa, it's hard to make that argument. And I think he's going to have fundraising problems too. Biden, if he comes in fourth place in Iowa, and if New Hampshire, based on the polls, he comes in a distant second place, then it's possible he's not going to win Nevada either. And if he loses Iowa, if he loses New Hampshire, if he loses Nevada, his campaign is over. Even if he won South Carolina, he would have to win South Carolina by 30 to 40 points for it to matter, which according to the polls, he's not going to win South Carolina by 30 to 40 points. And lastly, you have Michael Bloomberg, who just today announced, looking at this fuckery in Iowa, he's going to double his staff to over 2,000 people, and he's doubling his advertising on television. If you thought you've seen enough of Michael Bloomberg, well, he's going to have you see more of him. He is totally willing to buy this election. The DNC is totally willing to help him buy that election by allowing him on the debate stage, which actually I think will be a good thing if you're Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders, Michael Bloomberg will be the perfect fastball down the middle for Bernie Sanders to knock out of the park. I can't imagine a better contrast than Michael billionaire Bloomberg versus Bernie. I really can't. At least Tom Steyer, I don't love him, but he's not a complete sleaze. I mean, Michael Bloomberg is a sleaze. And he's a racist, to boot. And he was a Republican until 5 minutes ago. He spoke at George W. Bush's convention in 2004. He supported Rudy Giuliani. Need I say more? So there's a lot of moving parts here. We will keep on updating to give you... Hold on. Hello?
Worth of memberships, so 100 memberships.
Wait. We just got an anonymous donor saying what?
That this person will sponsor 100 memberships. 100 memberships, $5 a month. So.
Whoa! An anonymous donor. Can we confirm that it's not somebody from Wall Street, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley?
I can confirm that I love this person very much and that yes.
And I know this person?
Yes.
Wow. So we have somebody that is pledging right now to sponsor 100 new members at $5 a month.
We'll have to confirm because it's $500. We'll have to confirm, but it's $500 worth of sponsorships.
Holy cow. So what's the number at then? Oh, we don't know.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I'll have to figure it out. But that, if you guys are finding joining financially difficult, please email us at info@statuscoup.com.
Okay.
And also, I've been told to inform you to stop using gutter language.
By my mother or my father?
I will confirm after the call of that.
That's probably my father. That's his language. All right. So you heard it. For those of you who can't afford it, statuscoup.com/join. If you can't afford it, become a paid member. But if you can't, there is a wonderful, wonderful man, I don't know who, or it might be a woman, I don't know, who is pledging $500 worth of memberships. So Jen's head is going to explode because she's going to have to be the one that deals with these emails. God bless her soul. Email us at info@statuscoup.com if you'd like to be sponsored by this wonderful benefactor. Honestly, it's truly amazing. I just want to, for a second, just be real before I end. It's truly amazing. Having a startup media organization is not easy. I've been working 7 days a week basically for a year and a half. Jen's been working 7 days a week for a year and a half. It's what you see on camera is like 50% of what we do. We're doing so many things behind the scenes that I don't want to bore you with, but it's a lot of work. And sometimes you just don't even know if you're going to be able to continue because like we didn't have the funding, you know, we are not selling out. So we didn't take funding from the usual suspects. And sometimes things move incredibly slow. And sometimes you're growing like 5 new members a week if you're lucky. But then there's times when like everything seems to just like all your hard work, it seems to come. I mean, we're not finished. Got a lot more to do. We're not stopping at 1,000 whatever members we are. But it's really nice when your hard work starts to pay off and people start to really see what you're doing and value it. Because honestly, I don't mean this in an arrogant way. It's just the truth. We have no competition. There is nobody out there doing what we're doing. It just doesn't exist. There's nobody out there in the trenches doing what we're doing. There's some like documentary filmmakers that cover these kinds of things. There's some like honestly, when I go out to cover things, most of the time, I see more crews from foreign countries. I see the BBC. I've seen RT. I've seen them when I'm in Newark covering water contamination or Flint covering the ongoing Flint water crisis. I see more foreign news crews than American news crews covering environmental genocide, water poisoning, police brutality, income inequality, gentrifiers like Amazon creating homeless utopias. I mean, the list goes on. We went down to Dallas last year. We covered Botham John, a 26-year-old black man who was executed in his apartment. A police officer literally went into his apartment and shot him dead and then claimed, I thought it was my apartment. There was no national news covering it. I mean, there was articles, but there was no news down there. We spoke with his pastor. We spoke with his best friend. We told his story, and there is a little justice. She's going to jail. But those trips are not cheap. We choose to do it like I'm never going to be a millionaire or billionaire, and I don't even want to be one. A Caribbean vacation once in a blue moon is in a blue ocean is enough for me. But this stuff costs money, and it's amazing to start seeing it paying off. It also says a lot. It's amazing how many more people are finally seeing us because YouTube has hit us in a cave for going on 2 years now. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep signing up. For all the people that are emailing us now saying, I want to be sponsored, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I'm seeing my phone is blowing up with people wanting to be new members. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I know Jamal thanks you. We'll be flying early tomorrow, so we probably won't be live tomorrow. We're going to New Hampshire, I think Thursday night, Friday morning, we'll see. And thank you for all your support. We really appreciate it. See you in New Hampshire.